Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me hit some buttons here. Got it. Hello. We are here to make some beautiful fall and winter themed polymer clay jewelry. So if you're feeling cozy, I'm feeling cozy, and I'm loving this cozy trend that we're seeing out there right now with sweater texture, knit texture. We're going to show you 3 different ways of achieving that sweater texture in your jewelry designs. My name is Stephanie Manor. Thank you for joining us. And now let's switch the camera and let's look at the projects we're going to be making together. Okay, so here we are. We have some earrings and a necklace here. So first, these earrings, these hoop earrings, this is method 1 of getting that texture in there, and this is a braided texture. This necklace, so cute. This little beanie, I guess you would call it, a beanie necklace. This also looks like it has braids, but these are faux braids. We're just going to be twisting the clay here. And then finally, our last 2 earrings use a texture sheet to achieve this type of uniform texture on there. So we're going to walk you through how to do each one of those things. So let's get started by talking about the supplies that you'll need. So let me move these out of the way. Okay, so first you're going to need some clay. We sell clay in the jewelry making department, and it is sold like this in ombre selections of solid clay. And also there is clay. This is a brand new thing, clay with the patterns already in it. It looks something like that. And those colors go all the way through the clay. Those patterns are already in there for you. But for all of today's projects, we're going to be working with solid color clay. So that's the first thing you need is clay. Second thing, you need a series of basic clay tools. So this toolkit is great for that. It has some pointy things, some double-sided tools here, an acrylic roller, and a metal blade that comes in this little case. So I'm actually going to take this roller out of the package because it's pretty, and my roller has been well used. And so we want to look something that looks a little better for you. So we're definitely going to use that. Next, I have some cutters. So these are the cutters that we're going to be using in class. When you see them in store, they look like this. This one happens to be a 6-piece, and you get a bunch of shapes that work well together. We're going to need an assortment of jewelry tools, jewelry findings. You'll need some tools that look like this. You'll need some jump rings like these, and one other tool, which is some earring hoop guides that I'll show you here in a minute. All right, let's get started. So this is the project we're actually going to do first. And it is this little knit texture, and that is achieved with a texture sheet. So let me get that and talk about texture sheets. So we have several texture sheets in stores. Here's all the beautiful little textures available. And now each texture sheet is double-sided. So this knit texture here has another knit on the back. I love this like kind of sweatery cable knit texture. And this side is what was used to achieve this look here. Also with this earring, we're using some findings available at Michael's. These are called assorted connectors. I like to think of them as earring toppers. That's how we've used them here, just to kind of top the earring. You can see how professional that makes your polymer clay earring look when you match it up with proper findings. So this looks like something you would buy in a high-end boutique, but we're going to make it together here. The next thing I have is a ceramic tile. So this is a shiny, glossy ceramic tile from the hardware store. And this is how I like to do my polymer clay, because I can work with it on this tile, which provides a nice flat surface. And I can put the entire tile into the oven. And that way I don't have to touch my things that I've made. I'm not going to get as many fingerprints or fingernail marks in them by moving them. I can just leave them on the tile and put that into my oven. If you don't have a ceramic tile, you can go ahead and use a baking sheet. We do suggest to put a piece of parchment paper in the baking sheet before that goes into your oven. So either way works. This is just my preference because I find it to be easier. All right, so let's get out. Let me put my example here. Let's get out some clay. So this is what the clay looks like when you buy it. It comes in a slab. And I'm just going to open this up and put that slab right onto my work surface. I have a little texture here from the wrapper itself, but not a problem. We're going to deal with that. Then I want to show you another tool. These are thickness guides. So sometimes you see these in baking where you put them on either side of your dough so you can get that dough to an even and consistent thickness. And these are 4.5 mm and 3 mm. It's a little hard to see, but it does say 3 mm right here. And so I would put those on either side of my clay and then go in with my roller. Before I do that, and this is the one last supply, I have a little dish here of cornstarch. And I like to put a little bit of cornstarch on even before I start rolling. And you can put some cornstarch on the roller too. And this is just so that it won't stick. All right, so I can start rolling this and being fairly gentle with it. And I want to keep rolling it down till I get down to where my thickness guide is, which is 3 millimeters. You know, in jewelry world, we measure things in millimeters. So just taking my time, bringing that down. We do get a lot of questions about extra equipment like a pasta machine. If you are wanting to get seriously into polymer clay, jewelry making, you might want to invest in a pasta machine. This clay works wonderfully in there. It's just a matter of having that fancy equipment. If you don't have it, that's fine. We can do it the old-fashioned way. All right, that is looking pretty good. Let me just give it one more. But I think we are there. I think we're at 3 mm. And I just want to make sure I have no ridges in there. Okay, so I can feel with my finger that we are even. So I can take these away. All right, next thing I want to do is my texture sheet. So with the texture sheets, again, go in with some cornstarch. These texture sheets have a lot of very tiny little ridges in them, and they want to grab onto the clay. So you want to make sure that you're using some cornstarch. And set that down. Once I set it down, I want to make sure that I am anchoring it in place. So I'm anchoring it here at the bottom with one hand. And I'm going to take my roller and little by little, without moving it, I want to roll that texture on. I can start here at the bottom again. You can see I'm just kind of working my way up. One more time. Oop, hold that in place. All right, let's see what we got. Pretty. And it's easy to add texture. And next, this is the cutter that I'm going to be using. It just so happens that this cutter matches up perfectly with these little earring toppers. It's a perfect match. And that comes from this shape here. It's like an upside down rainbow. And so I want to place this. You can see through the cutter to the texture that you're going to get, so you can pick, you know, exactly where you want that to go. I also like to dip my cutter in a little bit of cornstarch. Whoop, just like that. And press down. You want to press down all the way until you hit your surface, work surface, and then lift it straight back out. There we go. And then you would continue cutting more shapes, whichever shapes you want, out of the rest of this clay. And once you have that all filled in with all the different shapes you want, you can just remove the excess clay. And this is why I like to work on the ceramic tile, because it is going to hold your clay down so that you can remove the negative, the parts that you don't want. So I can usually just go in with your fingers and remove all this excess. If you can't quite get it with your fingers, you can go in with your blade that comes with the toolkit and remove that. And I'm not so worried about this extra clay that has stuck around there. What I am worried about is just the edges of my shape. So I just want to go around with a sharp tool. You can use a toothpick, a wood stick, and just make sure your edges are kind of clean. All of this other stuff can stay there. Okay, and then this whole slab, this whole tile is ready to go into the oven. But we're not done yet. We have more fun to do. So let's, we're going to assemble this all together at the end, but let's keep going on the clay part. And I'm going to do actually what I don't normally do, but I am going to transfer this to a metal baking sheet. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is the metal blade that comes in your pack. I have added bits of leftover clay up here at the top and baked it. I put this whole thing into the oven. And that's just so that I can have grips and I know where to pick my blade up. This is very sharp. And so to transfer this from one surface to another surface, just make your blade parallel with your work surface and scoot it under there. Scoot it under there, pick it up, and transfer it. So the idea here is that you don't want to touch it too much, because you're going to get fingerprints and you're going to get unwanted marks on there. So it's best for you to touch it as little as possible. All right, let me just clean this up. All right, so let's move on to the next project, which is going to be this little knit cap. So for that project, we are also using the same clay slabs that you saw me use, the gray. But in this case, we do want to condition the clay. And so I want to talk to you about clay conditioning. So that's what I'm doing here, is I'm conditioning clay. That's when you just work it with your hands. When you are using other types of polymer clay that come in solid colors, you want to make sure that you are conditioning before you use it. The conditioning, it softens it, it warms it up, and it makes cracks less likely to happen. The reason I did not condition the gray clay when I made this piece just now is because when you are when you're just using it like a dough, like cutting out with cookie cutters, the conditioning part isn't as important. And certainly if you are using a pattern clay, we can't condition that. So this is considered pre-conditioned pattern clay. But whenever I am using a solid color and I'm going to be doing some weaving, braiding, twisting like this, I do want to make sure that I am using well-conditioned clay. And you'll find as you work with a different clay that even different colors within the same clay brand will feel a little different. This white, for example, is harder to condition than this peach was. Okay. But so now I've been working with this. It should only take less than 5 minutes to condition your clay. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is create sort of a base shape. So I have some clay here. Which I'm going to put some cornstarch on my roller, and we want to start rolling that out. And I do want to get this very thin. So on this step, I'm not going to be using my thickness guides because they are 4.5 mm and 3 mm, and I want this to be actually thinner because the process in making this is we're making a base. Sort of half of this earring is a base, and then the other half is this twisted texture. So I want to make sure that my base isn't too thick. So in the end, my earring won't be overly thick. All right, so just using my roller in all different directions. And I'm kind of visually looking for about a 2 mm size. Okay, all right, looking pretty good. And I still have this piece of white clay. So with this piece, I want to start making snakes. I'm going to move this whole thing up. And as we all played with Play-Doh as a kid, we're going to do that same process in making some snakes. If you've ever made pasta, well, you already know how to do this too. I grew up making pasta with my mom, and so this feels very natural to me. But I am rolling this out, and we want to get this very, very thin. So my tips for this is use a light touch and use all 4 of your fingers because the light touch will make sure you're not getting any indents in it. And using all 4 of your fingers, I start out with my fingers kind of close together. And then as I open them, the snake stretches outward. Now, I mentioned a pasta machine earlier, and here I'll mention another fancy tool, which is an extruder. Here I'm just cutting this in half and working with just this side. They sell clay extruders in Michaels. This is another kind of more advanced tool for you to work with. If you don't want to do all this rolling on your own, it's usually a metal tool that you put clay in and you squeeze it, and it pops out a perfectly rolled little snake. So that can be used as well. Also, another use for the thickness guides, our jewelry maker turned me on to this, but she uses the thickness guide to kind of avoid touching the clay as much with her hands. And so she uses it horizontally like this, which is really cool. And I like to do that, but in a later step. Okay, so I'm just going along, and where I see some areas like this, it's hard to see because this is white on white, but where it's thinner here and thicker here, it goes thick, thin, thick. I want to try to work out those thicker areas to get that down to the thin. And again, just kind of stretching it with my fingers. I'm going to cut that right there. Scoot this over. So we want to keep going until we have a snake that is about 2 millimeters thick. And the more even you can get this, the better, because it will show in your final design. Okay. All right, going in with my cutter, and I'm going to cut some pieces in about 4-inch intervals. So here's my 4-inch piece. I'm going to set that down. Actually, before I set it down, I'm going to take 2 pieces, and we're not going to braid this. We're just going to twist. So we can just twist this together. You can kind of squeeze the end, and then the twisting gets a little bit easier. And as you're twisting, just go slow, and because you want it to be even. You can also actually twist the clay, but I find it's harder to get it completely perfectly even that way. And so I only need to twist enough to fill the area of clay that I have here. So I'm going to cut this off and kind of set that there and start twisting another piece. And when I set this up, I want to make sure that my twists are going in the opposite direction of the twist next to it. This is what's going to give you that faux look. And just setting that down, kind of pressing it down. And moving on. We keep going. This time, instead of cutting it, I'm going to hold the end and twist this way. And be careful. As you're twisting, you don't want to pull, because you will pull your clay all out of shape. We don't want that. And then that goes here. You can tighten it up. And I keep going, keep going. Let's pretend that I have that done, and I will show you the next step. Next step is cutting. So I want to use a cutter, and we're pretending that I have this whole area filled with twisted clay. When I go to cut a shape, it will meld that clay with the bottom clay, I guess you could say. And then again, you can pull out the excess. All right. So here, from my example to the one I did, you can see the difference that the diameter of your snake makes. This one is very perfect. It's done by a very skilled jewelry designer who took her time, obviously, in doing this. I'm trying to work really fast for you guys because I do want to get through all of these projects. But when you take your time and you're using very thin, about 2 millimeter snakes, this is what you'll get once you cut it out. Okay. All right. So let's get the next project teed up here while I talk about baking. So I'm doing all of these projects, and with the idea that I'm going to bake them all at once. I'm just going to move this off to my parchment paper. So let's talk about baking while I condition this. Baking. So you want to bake in an oven. This is oven baked clay. All polymer clay is oven baked clay. So that means a regular oven, conventional oven, toaster oven, a convection oven will actually work too. Do not use your microwave. It will not work. I've never actually tried to put clay in their microwave, but I imagine that it would be kind of gross and stinky. So don't try that. So oven bake. Make sure your oven is at a consistent temperature. You want it to be set at 250 degrees, and you want to bake for 20 minutes. So it's in a fairly warm oven. You want to make sure that your oven actually is 250 degrees. A lot of times we have hot spots. You know your own oven. Hopefully you do. And that'll help you know where to set the temperature. Okay, so I've been conditioning this peach colored clay as we've been talking. And the next thing we are going to make are these braided hoops. So this is what it looks like. And these are already baked, obviously. This is what good baked polymer clay looks like. It is super flexible. It will not be brittle. If your clay is brittle, it usually means that you have not baked it long enough. So keep that in mind. Always err, for me, I always err on the side of cooking it longer than cooking it shorter. All right, so we have our peach clay ready to go, and we're going to start rolling here. And I'm sorry that the camera is shaking when I roll. I'm trying to avoid that as much as possible, but please just have patience with me because I unfortunately am moving my table when I do this. All right, so I'm going to cut that in half, save that piece for later, and just work with this half and rolling that out. And these ones, we want them a little bit thicker than the previous twisted step. These are about a 3 millimeter snake is what we want. And I'm going to go in with this technique because I want you guys to try. I mean, it's up to you which technique you like. I like this one because you're going to get a smooth curve. But what I don't like about it is that I can't feel it. I want to be able to feel that clay because then I can just more easily feel when I have some high points. So it is really up to you. They sell some specialty equipment for making these snakes too. Up to you if you want to buy those. All right, I'm getting a little long here, so I'm going to cut this once again. Scoot it over. And when I see some areas that are thicker, I put both of my fingers there and kind of move them away from one another. All right, here's a thicker area. Let's see if we can work on that. All right, now that I have this, I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces because we are going to be braiding this one. 3 pieces, which I'm going to arrange like this and put them together at the top. And I actually do want to like press those down. Oh, you can't see that. Just press those down so that that will hold. All right, so there's a lot of different ways to braid. But the way I'm going to show you is taking from the outside and bringing across the middle. And kind of this part, it requires a lot of patience. It requires a steady hand, but keep at it and you will get the perfect braid. Okay, on the outside, bring it in toward the middle. And then kind of adjusting that middle. On the outside, bring it toward the middle. On the outside, toward the middle. And I'm going right side, left side, right side, left side. It feels a little different for me doing this than, for example, hair braiding, but you'll get the rhythm of it. And it's up to you how tight you want this braid to be. So this braid that I'm working on is a little bit looser. And I'll show you the comparison here in a minute. All right, there's the braid. So in comparison, you can see this braid. Each placement of each strand just is a lot tighter. But that's up to you. That's up to you how you want yours to look. All right. Now, the next tool that I'm going to bring in, this is called a hoop guide. This helps you shape your hoops into this perfect circle shape. Okay. So you want to take your clay and lay it around the hoop guide like that. And you will see that there are these notches in the hoop guide. That is so that you can fit your blade in there and cut it. And you can decide if you want a full circle, if you want a half circle. That's why there are multiple places to cut. And I'm going to do mine right here. Okay. So trying to avoid touching it too much, I need to get this hoop guide out before I put it in the oven. So you can go in with a tool and get that out. And then take one more look at it. Just make sure this is what you want. And then this is ready to go into the oven. 250 degrees, 20 minutes. All right. So let's do one more project. We have one more set of earrings. This is very similar to the this earring that we did. And for that one, because I want to show you the difference between working with conditioned clay and clay straight out of the box. This is straight out of the box. I am going to have to move this so that I do not hit it. Moving that over to my baking sheet. Okay, back to my thickness guides. Here they are. And with my roller, I'm going to bring this down to about 3 mm. And just always testing. This side over here feels a little high. Okay, so that's down to 3 mm. And for this earring, it uses 2 parts, a square or diamond, and a circle. Dip those in cornstarch. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the texture. We want some texture on there. Let's actually just cut out a circle. I'm going to cut this and remove this excess. And then scooch this little circle, so we don't want texture on him, to my baking sheet. And that leaves this little piece, which I will put cornstarch on. And we're going to do texture. I'm actually going to do this sweater texture that's on the back of this herringbone texture. Let's try that out together. All right, so laying that down, making sure I'm anchoring it with one hand, and just slowly from the bottom, kind of scooching it, pushing it up. All right, there we go. Look how pretty that is. I love it. And now we can cut. So again, you're looking through the cutter to find where that pattern looks best. So we could do it here. How about here? Making sure that I have that exactly where I want it to be. And press down. And the second earring, let's say that is here. And then you can fill up the rest of this. Use up all that clay and then just remove the excess. And again, going in with a tool, this is where you can really perfect those edges. If there's any excess clay, it's easier to clean that up now than later. All right, and this is ready for the oven. So the whole ceramic tile gets put into the oven, 250 degrees, 20 minutes, and allow it to cool. Once it is cool, let me show you what you have here. All right, let's bring our pieces in. Here we go. All right, and now we are ready for assembly. And you'll have to forgive me because I have cornstarch all over my hands. So this is a real workspace. I'm really working. So unfortunately, we get dirty a little bit here. So we have a dirty work surface. All right, let's start with this one. So this is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. It is very flexible. It should not be breaking. If it is, it should have been baked longer. Next thing you need is to find where you want your holes to go. So in this case, let me move these. In this case, I need holes on my clay piece to line up with the holes that are already there on this metal piece. So here to here. You can make those holes before you bake. It's up to you. And I'll show you that. Let me bring in my tile again. If I wanted to make a hole in this before it goes into the oven, I can use a sharp tool like this, pierce it, and kind of make a hole. That is always an option. I personally don't prefer doing it that way because you get different size holes. It's not consistent. It might be a little bit wonky. So my preferred method of creating a hole at the top or anywhere where you need one is using a little hand drill like this. If you have a Dremel drill, like an electric drill, even better. But this takes literally like 5 seconds to break through here. So you place this. This already has holes in it because we're pretending, but this is how you would use a hand drill. Just place it and start twisting. And it comes through there really quickly. You kind of reverse it to get it out. And the other side. And this is also sold at Michael's. This is found in the UV resin section of the jewelry making department. And that's how you can make some holes. All right, we're ready for final assembly here. Assembling a clay piece to a metal piece, you will need jump rings. So I have this great thing that has a lot of different size jump rings in it. Generally for my polymer clay projects, I tend to use jump rings that I would consider to be a little on the larger side, just so that I can make sure that I get them through the clay. So this jump ring, this is about a 6 mm size. All right, so the way you do this is you use 2 pliers or 1 plier and your hands. And I can get on there and hold it on either side of the break. Each jump ring has a little break in the top. How close can I get this? Let's get this really close to you guys. And so the way I do this, I'll show you from the top, is I bring one toward me and one away from me. And that's how you open it. And then I can go through this and go through this And now I need to close that. To close it, I usually bring in a plier. So I have 2 pliers now. And I just close it in the opposite direction that I opened it. So I'm bringing those 2 back towards one another. And now I have one end connected. Let's do the same on the other end. Open the jump ring. Through here, through here. And close it up. This is where the larger jump rings really come into play so that you have some movement here. When this is on the ear, it will swing freely, which is what you want. All right, final step is adding an ear wire, and we use another jump ring for that. Right here, this one's already open. And close that up. All right, one earring down. Beautiful. All right, we'll repeat that process with these 2 pieces, and these already have the holes where we need them to be. And let's get some jump rings here. All right, open it up. This goes through there. This goes through here. And close that up. All right, so here is an earring. It's partial. It's a partial earring because we don't have a way to put it through our ears yet. So with these 2 earrings, I'm going to show you 2 different ways of adding the earring part. So first of all, there are 2 different kinds of findings that you can use here. One that is the same ear hook that we used in the last earring. I'll move that down. And one is this flat pad. So this is how you can make a stud earring rather than one that dangles like this one does. So to do that, it's very simple. We just glue that flat pad onto the back. This is the glue that I like to use, Loctite super glue. It works really well with polymer clay, and it grabs almost immediately. So a little bit on there. There we go. And don't get it on your fingers because your fingers will stick to one another. I know that from personal experience. All right, let's just set that to dry. So that's one way if you want this to be a post that goes through your ear. Second way, if you want it to be more of a dangle style, well, we need to drill a hole up here so that it can accept a jump ring. So let's do that. So first I want to line this up because I want to make sure that the new hole that I'm going to drill is exactly up from the bottom one. All right, place this exactly where I want it to go. And I just start twisting. And soon, it only took about 3 revolutions of it. Came through the back. And then you're left with, I need to like just clean it just a little bit. And then you're left with a hole there. That's what the back looks like. All right, let's connect those. Going for another jump ring. Which I'm going to open. And then connect it to the ear wire and close that up. There you go. So this is more of a dangle style. This one is almost dry. It is not dry yet, so let's not touch it. I'll show you the difference here in a minute. Let's set those off to the side. Okay, this one, I don't think I need to walk you through these steps because they are the exact same steps that we just did to create our earring. We drill a hole, or we will have already made a hole before the baking process, connect with jump rings, and then put it on a necklace chain. This is a long necklace chain. I think this is about 26 inches, 30 inches, somewhere in there. And that will make this a long pendant necklace. And it's just connected like that. And again, let me show you the flexibility, super flexible. Oh, of course it just broke. Oh my goodness. It just broke. Don't ask me why that broke. I'll have to talk to somebody about that. Okay, let's redeem ourselves. Hoop earrings. So here we need to add this part here that goes through the ear. And on these, we don't have a lot of surface area to work with. So some of the findings that you'll find out there are going to be too big. Like this is an example of one that Michael sells. I believe that this is an 8 mm diameter. So that would be too big for this. Instead, we use one that's smaller. This is just another size at Michael's. This is a 4 mm size. And a lot of times they're sold with the earring back, which I'm just going to put on now. So this is the little setup. And we just want to glue that in place using Loctite again. And putting that right in place. And then I'm just going to set this up over here so that it won't move. And then through the magic of television, I'll show you this final one. So here's your final, very flexible hoop. All right, so we are wrapping it up here. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask those in the chat now so that we can make sure that your questions get answered. Here is our dried. This has dried on the back. So you can see this goes through the ear like that. This dangles from the ear. It's just two different looks, whatever you prefer. And let's see, I have a couple other examples to show you. We do these classes every maybe about 2 a month. And I'm going to show you some more examples of earrings. So once you get started creating with earrings with polymer clay, it's a little bit addictive, I have to say, because the combinations of shapes that you can put together are really endless, depending on if you like a larger earring, a smaller earring, one that dangles. These are all earrings that we've made. Let me dump out my earring thing here. And just with the skills that you've learned in this class, you can make any of these. All of these particular ones were made with the pre-patterned clay. So this is what the clay looks like. This is the result that you will get. The pattern goes all the way through the clay. So you can see on the side there, that white goes all the way through. So it's a little bit different than working with solid clay that you would condition first. But you can see how easy it is to use your cutters to make shapes, bake it, and then connect those shapes together. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining me. As I said, We do these classes, about 2 classes a month. Always take a look at michaels.com in the classes and events, and you will always see new jewelry classes featuring polymer clay. This was very much sort of a beginner class, and we'll be showing you some more beginner things and some more kind of intermediate things coming up in the next few months. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Stephanie Menor. Bye.